This is Right to Life Radio. And now, here's your host, John Girardi.
Longtime listeners to Right to Life Radio will know that we have a couple of crazy, wacky characters in the American abortion scene who are often villains on this show. And there's no villain. There are a few people who've made more appearances on the villain side of things on this show. A few people who've made more appearances than Dr. Daniel Grossman. Dr. Daniel Grossman, who...
Few people more aptly named.
Yeah. Very few people, I would say, in America know about Dr. Grossman, but if you actually study the abortion issue very intensively, you will know that he is, if not one of the leading sort of advocates for the abortion issue in the medical, academic, scholarly realm. Almost every bad abortion-related bill, or many of the worst abortion-related bills, when they get introduced in the California state legislature, who walks up to the microphone to testify in favor of them? Dr. Daniel Grossman. And the one thing he has been the biggest pusher of is the abortion pill, making the abortion pill universally, quote, accessible, because access is what the abortion pill is all about. The abortion pill is not about helping women have better health outcomes. They manifestly have worse health outcomes. The point of the abortion pill is to allow people to get abortions with a very low barrier to entry so that you don't have to drive to a clinic to get the abortion pill. So it does not matter if you live in Indiana or Ohio or I guess Ohio now is legal abortion. Indiana or Texas or wherever you are, as long as you can get something in the mail, you can get the abortion pill. So Dr. Grossman has been behind the big push early in the Biden administration to eliminate the in-person examination requirement before being prescribed the abortion pill. He was the leading advocate for SB 24. This was the California bill passed several years ago that, in 2019, I believe, that mandates that the university health centers at CSUs and UCs have to provide the prescribed abortion pill for women requesting it. So Dr. Grossman is a huge abortion advocate, and specifically the abortion pill. Now, just earlier this week, on Monday the 13th, Dr. Grossman was the leading researcher for a piece that was published in JAMA. Jonathan Keller here with us, by the way, the Journal of the American Medical Association. Mail-order pharmacy dispensing of mifepristone for medication abortion after in-person screening. So this piece is purporting to show, what's it purporting to show? He's trying to show that the abortion pill and mail-order abortion is safe. He's trying to basically pop the balloon of all those nasty, woman-hating pro-lifers who they are evil men who shouldn't have opinions on things. Dr. Grossman, though, is a nice man who should have opinions about things. Evil men who shouldn't have opinions about things who have the temerity and the audacity to say that, hey, a medication to artificially terminate your pregnancy that involves a lot of bleeding and that sends thousands of women annually to ERs for excessive bleeding, that medication should be able to be shipped through the mail. And why do they want it to be shipped through the mail? Well, basically, they're pushing for it to be shipped through the mail because, as they reiterated time and again in the SB 24 debate and in other places, they think it's too hard for people to drive to an abortion clinic to have the in-person consultation needed before they can safely be prescribed the abortion pill. Why? Now, what are the safety concerns at play here? Well, one, if you prescribe the abortion pill to someone who is more than 10 weeks into their pregnancy, their risks of various kinds of complications, excess bleeding, etc., go way up. So an in-person examination allows you to confirm gestational age. It also allows you to confirm whether or not someone is having an ectopic pregnancy. which is where the baby is growing in the fallopian tube rather than the uterus, and it's a very dangerous situation. If you don't have an ultrasound before giving someone the abortion pill is just not going to work, and the baby who's growing in the fallopian tube will just keep growing, which leads to a very dangerous situation for both mom and baby. Okay? So basically, people opposed to totally unrestricted abortion were saying, at the very least, we have to mandate that people, go check first to see what's going on with the baby's gestational age, how far along the woman is, whether she's having an ectopic pregnancy, etc. That how else can you prescribe the abortion pill safely? But they don't care. They don't actually care about the abortion pill being prescribed safely. They want to allow the abortion pill to be prescribed without an in-person visit so that everyone can access the abortion pill. If you have a mailbox in front of your house, you can get the abortion pill. And it doesn't matter where you live, you can get an abortion pill. So, how does Dr. Grossman go about proving his contention that no, mail order abortion is fine? And let's remember that. Mail order abortion and not having an in-person visit, those two things go hand in hand. Okay? The whole point of mail order abortion is to facilitate people getting abortions without having a visit first.
If you have
an in-person visit.
If you have the in-person visit, you don't need the mail.
Right. If you have the in-person visit, you go, you have your visit, you have your ultrasound, they determine gestational age, and they give you the abortion pill there.
It's kind of the whole point.
That's the point.
Like if you have the person there, John, to do the in-person examination, and if you look, I want to read, John, from here, the thing where it says the key points on the study. At the beginning. It says, key points. Question. Is medication abortion with mail order pharmacy dispensing of mifepristone effective, acceptable, and feasible? And then it says findings. The prospective cohort study included 506 participants and 510 medication abortions, each with less than 63 days, equal to or less than 63 days gestation at enrollment, that were provided through mail order pharmacy dispensing after in-person eligibility screening.
All right, so let's focus in there because he's using a little medicalese, but he's hitting the ball on why this is such a stupid survey. Okay, this survey is going to be used to say mail order abortion's totally safe. It's great. All these women had perfectly safe outcomes. They had safe outcomes through their mail order abortions after an in-person visit.
Yep.
That's the point. They are bypassing the very point that pro-lifers who are saying Biden is insane to get rid of the in-person visit requirement. This is insane to mail people abortions without an in-person visit. It's not the sending people the abortion pills through the mail mechanism that we are concerned with so much as the never getting an in-person visit thing that we are concerned with.
And John,
if you and that's when Biden issued the regulations for mail order abortions, what did he do simultaneously? He eliminated the requirement that someone have an in-person visit first before they're prescribed and receive the abortion pill. What Grossman's study is showing, the abortion pill via mail is such a safe process after someone has had an in-person visit. He's basically, all he's doing is proving what we were saying all along, that it's not good, but it's obviously safer to do pill abortions after someone's had a visit.
Yeah.
So
John,
he's basically trying to use the safety statistics from the regime prior to Biden to show that the current regime is safe. And that's just fundamentally irrelevant / dishonest.
So, and John, let me read a little bit more from the abstract here of this study, which again, this is reported by the Journal of American Medicine on their website, JAMAnetwork.com. It says abstract. Before 2021, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration required mifepristone to be dispensed in person, limiting access to medication abortion. Okay, yes, that's true. It did limit it. So the idea here, like you said, John, is that the only difficulty to the access is whether or not they could receive it in person. And it says objective, to estimate the effectiveness, acceptability, and feasibility of dispensing mifepristone for medication abortion using a mail order pharmacy. Well, again,
the thing we didn't object to necessarily mail order abortions. What we objected to, again, was you want to give people abortions who can't drive to get abortions. You want to give people abortions through basically mailing the abortion pill legal. You want to give people abortions in states that are going to have reasonable restrictions on abortion clinics that abortion clinics can't live up to for like health and safety standards. Your goal is not safety, it's access. That's the goal that Grossman and his ilk have. So the idea that the prior rules were a barrier to abortion access. Yeah. Safety standards can sometimes be a barrier. Like safety standards, if you're not going to have a process that ensures that someone receiving this is going to be safe, then you shouldn't do it. Like, so I don't know. I have this barrier to entry for me to get some morphine where I have to go to a doctor or something rather than just pinky promise him in a Zoom video that I'm really hurting, doc.
Yeah.
Can you mail me my morphine, please? Yeah, it's a barrier to morphine access.
Yes. Let me read a little bit longer on the abstract here. It says design, setting, and participants. And again, for the astute listeners, tell me if you can understand the inherent contradiction. The prospective cohort study was conducted from January 2020 to May 2022, included 11 clinics in 7 states, yada, yada, yada. Eligible participants were seeking medication abortion at 63 days or fewer gestation. Okay, so number one, the only way to determine that for sure is if you are going to go into the clinic and have an actual examination and be able to determine, we can measure through either ultrasound or otherwise, we can conclusively determine that you were 63 days or fewer gestation. Most women, a lot of times, unless they are incredibly precise about tracking their cycles, they're not going to know the exact date that they got pregnant and the exact gestation that they are.
They're ballparking it. And even if, like the idea, we'll just take your word for it. Like, what kind of nonsense is that? We wouldn't accept such idiocy in any other context.
Yep.
99.9% of people don't know the day that it happened. That's the most idiotic. It's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. You're just going to take their word for it. You're not even going to check. This something that severely increases the complication rate. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if it severely increases the complication rate. We haven't collected the complication rate data from the abortion pill since 2016.
So, John, let me just a couple more highlights here. Number one, this is just makes me very sad. This one part. The rest of it is very humorous, but this makes me very sad. They specifically say 63 days or fewer, spoke English or Spanish, were age 15 years or older.
So, 15 or older.
So you have 15-year-old girls that are in this study being part of this. Instead of saying, you know what, maybe we should be helping you with some of these situations that, obviously it's a difficult situation you're in. You found yourself pregnant, yada, yada, yada. No. Let's sign you up for this study so that we can try to get even more 15-year-olds to be.
It's pretty
dark.
It's pretty sick stuff. Also, the other dark thing was 506 patients and 510 abortions.
Yep.
Meaning there were at least 4 participants who
that had more than one.
Yep.
So then it goes
totally
on,
evil. Yeah.
After assessing eligibility for medication abortion through an in-person screening, which is what we've been saying, mifepristone and misoprostol were prescribed using mail order pharmacy. But John, then here's the other line. In addition to the pre-screening from the thing, patients had standard follow-up care with the clinic.
Yeah, how many people are... That's not a requirement anymore.
So it's not just the pre-screening.
Which is the other requirement that the Obama administration got rid of. All right, we're going to put all this in context. We're going to go a little bit when we return through the history of all the health and safety standards that Obama eliminated, which this study showing the safety of the abortion pill had to use in order to show that the abortion pill was safe. That's next on Right to Life Radio. Talking about a big journal article from the Journal of the American Medical Association written by Dr. Daniel Grossman. For those who don't know, Dr. Grossman is a bigwig, pro-abortion bigwig. I think we should have, I don't know if I actually mentioned this at the top of the show, Jonathan Keller from California Family Council. Dr. Daniel Grossman is the head of the Bixby Center for reproductive healthcare stuff. Don't know if I've got the exact name of that right. The Bixby Center at UC San Francisco, which is kind of the epicenter of all abortion evil, certainly in California. They do late-term abortions there. They train people to do abortion. And from there, Dr. Grossman has a position to advocate and do research on behalf of pro-abortion policy. And he published this big piece on Monday trying to show that the mail order abortion pills are totally safe. But as Jonathan and I have pointed out, they're only safe in this study when they do the things, the in-person visit on the front end beforehand and the in-person visit on the back end afterwards. Those are the kinds of in-person visits that Barack Obama and Joe Biden abolished as requirements for the proper administration of the abortion pill through the FDA. So I want to just remind you all, because right now, the various regulations surrounding the abortion pill, it's being debated at the Supreme Court. I think the Supreme Court could have a decision about this within the next month. Let me give you just a brief walk down memory lane, the history of the regulation or not regulation of the abortion pill. So in 2000, the abortion pill gets approved by the FDA in a rushed, expedited process because Bill Clinton wasn't sure if George W. Bush or Al Gore were going to win the election. He figured if George W. Bush won, they would just not get the abortion pill approved. So he does this expedited process, probably illegitimate, because the expedited process through the FDA is for medication that treat serious illness, which pregnancy, last I checked, is not a serious illness. It's not an illness at all. So they approve the abortion pill, and the abortion pill has around it a series of health and safety regulations for its proper administration, namely that you have to have a visit before, you have to have a visit for actually receiving the abortion pill and ingesting it on site at the clinic. The abortion pill could not be distributed at normal pharmacies. And then a follow-up, a required third follow-up visit. 2016, Barack Obama eliminates 2 of those 3 visits. So you can have your examination and receive the abortion pill at the same time in just 1 visit. No need for a follow-up visit. This study by Dr. Grossman, looking at the safety of the abortion pill when it's shipped through the mail to someone, all the participants had a follow-up visit after the abortion pill, which is not required anymore.
The absurdity, and John, the fact that they are not even hiding it. It's in the methodology.
Yeah, it's right there.
I didn't have to pay.
Who are you fooling?
I didn't have to pay for a super secret, high level academic.
No, it's right there. We just click the link. Yeah. It's right there.
It's in the abstract of the study. Yeah. And anybody,
you don't even have to dig into the study. It's just in the abstract at the top. Yeah.
Anybody who looks at this study, if there is any pro-abortion journalist that looks at this study and reports it uncritically as saying, "Oh, look,
mail order abortions are
safe." It's safe.
Which that's exactly what's going to happen.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. But it doesn't stop there. Okay, so 2016, Barack Obama eliminates that need for that follow-up appointment, but he still has the requirement for 1 in-person visit. And that 1 in-person visit is important. It allows the doctor to see, okay, is the baby within 10 weeks gestational age? After 10 weeks, the FDA it would be an off-label usage of the abortion pill to administer the abortion pill after 10 weeks. After 10 weeks, basically there are more adverse outcomes that can happen. There's more risk to mom. You also won't be able to tell if an ectopic pregnancy is happening if you don't do an ultrasound. So in 2021, Joe Biden eliminates even that in-person examination in order to allow the abortion pill to be shipped through the mail. because of COVID, they were saying, although people were pushing for that long before COVID, pro-abortion people were pushing for that long before COVID because of the lack of, quote, access that people live if they live in more rural places that aren't near an abortion clinic, etc. So this is all about access. And again, the point of allowing mail order abortion was to go hand in hand with, we're going to eliminate the one in-person visit requirement. Dr. Grossman's study showing the safety of the mail order abortion pill, again, all of the participants in the study had an in-person screening before receiving the abortion pill. So it's like they're trying to prove that mail order abortion is safe by putting in place all the safety restrictions that they have advocated getting rid of.
Right.
That's the only way they could demonstrate that it's safe.
Well, and the crazy thing is, John, that they understand how disastrous it would be for a study to come out without these safeguards. Because if a study came out and got out, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that this patient was actually 15 weeks along, not less than 9 weeks long. Or, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that it was an ectopic pregnancy. So they very conveniently screened out all the potential adverse events at the beginning of the study.
Exactly. Well, and it's almost like if you're not going to require them to come into the clinic, like almost how can you do a study on people like that? Yep. You know, like how the whole point is that they're not coming in. I mean, maybe you just have phone call, messages with them. And then if they are having an adverse outcome, then you let them come back or just, oh no, just go to the ER, honey. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, it's so unbelievably brazen that what they care about in this whole thing is just making sure babies die, making sure that people have abortions. They don't actually care about the safety. That's why they're eliminating the safety standards. They're willing to sacrifice safety for the sake of the most people getting abortions as possible. When we return, we're going to talk about I think, kind of outrageous sentence given to pro-life protesters who were arrested outside abortion clinics. And we're going to talk about this thing called the FACE Act. That is next on Right to Life Radio. We're back with Right to Life Radio, and I want to talk about a issue that is impacting certain pro-life protesters around the country. Not so much us at Right to Life, although we did have a little legal tussle with the state of California over not this identical issue, but a similar issue. And that is the question of pro-lifers protesting outside of abortion clinics and this federal law called the FACE Act, F-A-C-E. Congress isn't good at a lot of things. One thing it's good at, acronyms. I'm sure you will agree with me on that. Jonathan Keller from California Family Council. Yes, they're very good at acronyms. We'll the HEROES Act, the Health Employee Restatement, blah, blah, blah. They're very good at acronyms. The FACE Act stands for the Free Access to Clinic Entrances Act. And this was a law that Congress passed, a federal law regulating clinic entrances and people obstructing them. Now, nobody has ever really been prosecuted under the FACE Act other than pro-lifers, all right? Pretty much nobody has ever been prosecuted under the FACE Act except for pro-lifers, correct? I mean, I think that's
probably some very minor examples. Because, John, the one thing they did when they passed this,
I knew there was some kind of history, some sort of allegedly bipartisan history to the passage of this law, and I couldn't remember what it was.
It was originally
but it basically only was used against pro-lifers.
It was originally passed in 1994, and when it passed, it was shockingly, surprisingly at the time, it was pretty overwhelmingly bipartisan. And I was looking to see if I had the exact numbers, but I remember seeing at the time, it is funny, John, sometimes when you go back and you look at the number of bipartisan votes there were in the 80s and 90s, and you think, how in the world would any of this legislation even get remotely close to that today?
Right, exactly, yeah.
But let me look here. So it passed, even in the Senate, it passed 69 to 30.
Okay.
And
who was the one senator taking a bathroom break when the
Yeah.
bill was being debated. Anyway,
But my point basically being with it that there was a there's a lot of little side votes and modified votes and everything. But the point being that when it passed, the kind of goodie that they gave to say, oh no, this is not just about abortion. They said no, this is the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, and they added in there that you can't block a church facility either.
Okay. So they threw in a little thing. Oh, we're going to protect churches too, because those right wingers like churches,
Right.
But of course, it's been mostly used for the sake of prosecuting pro-lifers.
Well, and especially because we saw the fact that these bills were not hardly, I think, at all used in the summer of 2022 to protect churches and pregnancy centers that were being vandalized and attacked by radical abortion activists.
Yeah, like essentially nobody was actually prosecuted by the feds for any of the attacks on churches and pro-life entities after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So,
and even in the case, John, we'll talk about this because I want to circle back to that. But
okay. All right. So let's get to the story at hand. The Biden Department of Justice has charged dozens of pro-life Americans with violation of the FACE Act. So this one case from this week, U.S. District Judge Colleen Collar-Cottley, say that 5 times fast, sentenced a pro-life activist on Tuesday to 57 months in prison and 3 years supervision for her participation in a peaceful pro-life protest at one of Washington, D.C.'s most controversial abortion facilities. Lauren Handy, age 30, was one of several members of the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, a primarily leftist organization with a pro-life streak, who initiated a rescue and protest at late-term abortionist Cesare Sant'Angelo's Washington, D.C. facility in October of 2020. All right, so let me make one thing clear here. We at Right to Life Central California, a lot of you here, we have Linda Talia on the show very often. We're not really, I don't believe that we are at all at risk of being prosecuted for something like this. We don't obstruct the entrance to the clinic. We don't trespass on Planned Parenthood's property. We actually have a pretty decent relationship, actually, with the Planned Parenthood management. They kind of know who we are, and they know we're not violent or crazy or anything. Also, we won a lawsuit against the state of California. The state of California had passed a law banning various kinds of protests within 100 feet of any person walking into a, quote, vaccine site. And we filed a lawsuit against the state of California and got that lawsuit resolved in a fashion that was favorable to us. California agreed not to enforce the relevant provision of the law. So, our organization, Right to Life Central California, we don't engage in breaking the law to make a point. All of our activities are lawful. We don't engage in civil disobedience. I'm just trying to hunt for that phrase. So, Right to Life Central California, we don't do civil disobedience. There are some pro-lifers who do. Okay? There are some pro-lifers who engage in different forms of nonviolent, peaceful civil disobedience. And that often takes the form of blocking the entrance to an abortion clinic and or trespassing onto the property of an abortion clinic. Trespass or obstructing an entrance to somewhere are not serious crimes.
That's correct.
They are not. They are not felonies, pretty much any which way you look at it. They are just, they're simple, small misdemeanor crimes that if you get jail time for them at all, which God knows in California, we don't like to give to a lot of parts of California. We're not giving anyone jail time for anything. They're just not very serious crimes. I'm not saying they're not crimes. I'm not saying that, I'm not doing these things.
Well, John, I don't
know that it's necessarily the wisest tactic for addressing the abortion issue. I'm just saying these are not very serious crimes.
Well, not only are they not serious, John, but I would say in some cases, historically, they have been the most celebrated and time-honored and preferred crimes for expressing a viewpoint about a grave social injustice that is being
Correct.
done. Like
Yeah.
you look throughout the entire history of the civil rights movement, and the idea that you had sit-ins at lunch counters, and you
Right.
had bus boycotts, and you had all these other types of things throughout history.
I don't know if Rosa Parks was actually breaking a law necessarily, but she was certainly ticking a lot of people off
Right.
by sitting on the bus.
Right. But there's lots of other examples throughout the civil rights movement of literally civil disobedience, peaceful either marching or peaceful literally sitting in and saying, hey, this location is segregating their lunch counters, or they are refusing to serve African Americans.
And it's even a thing of like the kind of obstruction or hindrance that this causes is pretty minimal. Like, no one is going to die as a result. I mean, someone might not die specifically as a result of this, actually, quite the contrary. But it's not like there's critical medical services that are being delayed as a result. Unlike, for example, people who block major freeways or highways or city streets protesting for X, Y, and Z. Those kinds of protests can actually endanger lives of like, you know, if an ambulance is driving by and you've got someone with a, you know, Right to Life Radio takes no position on the question, but if you've got a, like, as has happened several times since last October, if you've got a protesting for free Palestine protest going on and you're blocking Shaw Avenue, well, there might be an ambulance trying to get down Shaw Avenue to save somebody's life, and you're blocking it from going on. So the FACE Act was used to prosecute this woman, Lauren Handy, excuse me, and give her a 57-month prison sentence.
Yep.
Now,
4 years and 9 months.
yeah. Now, I don't know how much of that she's actually going to have to serve, but presumably it's going to be pretty freaking long time. I mean, that's a felony sentence.
And
Again,
John, the way that she did this was a peaceful sit-in, saying there are babies that are being killed here at this abortion facility, and we are going to peacefully, along with a group of other pro-life activists, we're going to peacefully sit in and disrupt the operations of this facility, not chanting, not throwing things, not violently,
not hurting anybody,
just peacefully sitting.
Yeah.
And John, the reason that I bring up how different it is that there was another sentence that happened just a month ago on Wednesday, April 10th. A Madison man was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. So to be fair, a little longer than Lauren.
Longer.
About 3 years longer than Lauren. What was the purpose that he was sentenced? It was literally for the firebombing of my counterpart's office in Madison, Wisconsin.
Right. Which is a little worse than kneeling in the waiting room and offering people literature. So it's like almost comparable level sentencing for, one, a woman peacefully engaged in civil disobedience protests, not hurting anybody, sort of obstructing the operations of a clinic for an hour or two.
Right.
Versus a guy engaged in a violent crime, throwing a Molotov cocktail through the window of a building and burning it down.
Who then also had, when he was arrested at the Boston airport, he had a one-way plane ticket out of the country.
Yeah, exactly.
So the difference between...
So basically domestic terrorism versus kneeling in a waiting room.
Yep.
So when we return, I want to talk about one way Donald Trump could buy back a good little bit of pro-life goodwill. Maybe pardon someone like this. That'll be next on Right to Life Radio. We're back with Right to Life Radio. We're talking about the prosecution of peaceful pro-life civil disobedience-ers. Lauren Handy, a woman who has been sentenced to 57 months in jail in Washington, D.C. for peacefully entering an abortion clinic and kneeling in the waiting room and praying with people and encouraging people not to have abortions. She's getting 57 months in prison, where meanwhile, people who were, in Portland, Oregon, firebombing federal courthouses and things like that are not getting 57 months in prison. So I think I left with this thought, and then Jonathan's going to share us a quick little California thing before we wrap up the show. If Donald Trump wants to buy some pro-life goodwill, because probably alienated a couple people by saying he's not going to support any federal pro-life restrictions, he's been sort of mum on all the different state pro-abortion ballot initiatives, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Here's one way you could buy it back. Saying that he's going to pardon people, pro-lifers who are being prosecuted under the FACE Act, the Free Access to Clinic Entrances Act. These are people being prosecuted for crimes that are basically trespass and obstruction of sidewalks. These are not usually things the federal government concerns itself with. And they're getting huge sentences for crimes that are in any other context, low-level misdemeanor slaps on the wrists. I think Trump could probably buy a little bit of goodwill if he said, hey, I'm going to pardon this person or massively mitigate her sentence or reduce it to time served, get rid of her felony conviction, whatever it is. I think he could buy a lot of goodwill. All right, Jonathan, what's going on with California abortion reporting as we wrap up the show here?
So this is something that just randomly my staff member, Sophia Laurie, sent me this note. And if, John, you ever wonder, how is it that studies like this get, the one that we talked about in the first couple segments, or other messaging on abortion in California, how is it that so often you have this completely one-sided view of abortion in the media? And you also seem to have the Democratic Party is just completely in the grip of Planned Parenthood.
Sure.
Well, this is a little thing that from Capital Weekly, a little section that Sophia sent me today, and it said the title is it's talking about power couples. It says Jody Hicks and Paul Mitchell. And this is the little paragraph. It's almost unfair how influential Jody Hicks and Paul Mitchell are as a couple. Who are they, you may ask? Hicks is the CEO and president of Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California, arguably the state's most active combatant in this era's culture war over abortion. Her leadership on the issue stretches far beyond the boundaries of the Golden State, with her voice carrying considerable weight nationwide. Paul Mitchell.
By the way, how much kissing up are we going to do in the course of this article? How much of a superhero is this woman going to be? Okay,
well,
continue.
And you'll find out why. Mitchell, as vice president of Political Data, Inc., and owner of Redistricting Partners, is seemingly every California news outlet's favorite election analyst.
So the most popular election analyst for journalists in California is the husband of the woman who's the head of Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California?
Yes. And it goes on. A top pollster, Mitchell has a knack for not only plumbing California election data for original insights, but also talking about them in an engaging, easy-to-understand way. These two are about as high profile as you get in the Capitol community. And then it says, in parentheses, note, Hicks is on the board of Open California, the publisher of Capital Weekly.
So he's on the board of directors of this publication I'm writing for.
Yep.
He's the husband of the gal who runs Planned Parenthood.
Or she is. Hicks is on the board of Open California.
Oh, Hicks is?
Yes.
The Planned Parenthood lady?
She herself is on the board.
How can, like, a huge political activist be on the board of Open California? like, what? This is like... Wouldn't you want someone who's like kind of in a non-political job running this?
No, John, because when you're on the right side of history, being on the right side of history means never having to say you're sorry.
Well, there you go. So it's good to know. Good to know California. All of our reporting we get on the abortion issue is just free and clear, given that Planned Parenthood executives are running some of the major statewide media outlets covering what's going on in the Capitol.
And this again from an article, Capital Weekly's Top 10 Capitol Power Couples.
There we go. All right. That'll do it for Right to Life Radio. We will see you guys next time right here on Power Talk.